Hey everyone, it's Lynnea for LDRS Creative. Today I'm making a fun summary shaker card, and I have a bunch of products. I have the Friends Like You stamp set, Get Well sentiment stack, the Practically Square Frames die set. I'll be using the A2 stitched layered card toppers die set, pastel patterns paper pack, and the plaid stencil, along with some LDRS Creative inks. So lots of fun goodies going into today's card. I picked out the blue checked pattern from the Pastel Patterns 6x6 paper pack, and I'm going to use the largest die from the A2 Stitched Layered Card Toppers die set. Excuse my head right here, but I am trying to get this die lined up straight so that I can make sure that checked pattern is straight on my card. I'm using a bit of masking tape to hold that in place, and then I'm taking this large square die from the Practically Square Frames die set, and I'm going to adhere that with some masking tape in place in the center and run this through my die cutting machine. Now I have a nice frame with a stitched outside border, which is exactly the size of an A2 card front, and that square frame is right in the middle so I can create a fun shaker card. I need to have something in the background of my shaker card, and you could definitely pick out a different pattern from the Pastel Patterns paper pack, but this plaid stencil is one of my favorite stencils, and I wanted to have a multicolored background. So I sprayed my plaid stencil with a temporary adhesive and put that onto a piece of white cardstock, and I just used a brayer to really press that stencil onto my cardstock. This plaid stencil has a lot of little tiny lines that I didn't want to shift. So that's why I used my brayer to really make sure that stencil was pressed on well. Now I'm going to use a variety of LDRS Creative hybrid inks to ink up my background. I used In Your Face Orange, Tangerine Dream, Peachy Keen, and Lantern Yellow. Right now, I started with just Tangerine Dream, the Peachy Keen, into the Lantern Yellow, but I thought that my orange was a little bit too light, and I wanted to bring in a darker color, so that's why I brought in that In Your Face Orange. And I'm just going to add that towards the bottom, and you can see how much brighter that orange gets. I'll just go back and forth and keep blending those inks together until I have a nice gradient of color behind my background panel. I stamped these cute little critters, the fox, the raccoon, and the bird playing jump rope, and this image is from the Friends Like You stamp set. This stamp set is so cute. Tons of critters playing in the outdoors in the summertime, springtime. I just think that they are so cute. So I'm going to go ahead and color these critters. I'm using my alcohol markers, but I encourage you to use what you have in your craft room and what you are most comfortable with. If you like to color with pencils or watercolors or even watercolor markers, those are great too. I just happened to reach for my markers. I colored dark to light, but I know a lot of people color light to dark and then back down from dark to light. Color again however you are most comfortable. I like to go in with my darkest marker first and add shadows, and then blend out with my medium and my light markers. I feel like that really gives me a lot of depth and a lot of dimension. I'm just going to color along here. I'm using a lot of earthy colors, so a lot of earth browns. I used some yellow reds for the fox, but now I'm using some darker and lighter earth browns on the raccoon image here. And then even for the bird, I used the same color that I used on the fox's face. I used those again on the bird. I like to repeat colors throughout my images. That just makes them look like they go together. It makes it look like one cohesive image. I'm going to go ahead and take the coordinating Friends Like You die set, and I'll use some masking tape to tape that die right over top of my image. Run this through my die cutting machine, and then once that's done, I'll have this cute little perfectly die cut image for the front of my shaker card. Now before I start working on the shaker card, I wanted to grab a sentiment. The Friends Like You stamp set has a couple sentiments in it that are just absolutely adorable, but I thought I would use the Get Well sentiment stack so that I could have two little banner sentiments below my image. I'm going to ink this up with some Bali Blue ink. This ink is, I need a new pad. I use this ink all the time. I love this blue color. What's great about these sentiment stacks is that it's one big, huge stamp. Well, it's a 4x4 stamp, so the stamp itself is not huge, but it's one stamp that's going to stamp 11 sentiments. And then the coordinating sentiment stack die is, again, one die, and you're going to be able to cut out all 11 sentiments. Now, you're going to notice that there are little squares that you're going to line up. Make sure that you get this the correct way. You'll know that it's not right because some of the sentiments will be cut off. That's how you'll know if it's right side up. Again, I'm just going to use some masking tape to adhere that in place, run that through my die cutting machine, and then I'm going to pop this off, and you're going to see how easy it is. I'm just going to pop out all of these little sentiment strips, and I will have a bunch of sentiments. I used Bali Blue for this, and then I also stamped and repeated this process again with In Your Face Orange so that I would have perfectly coordinating sentiments that were going to match my pastel patterns background paper as well as that plaid stenciling that I did. Okay, so let's build the shaker. I'm working on the back of my die cut pattern paper piece, and I'm going to put some strong double-sided adhesive all around. Then I adhered a piece of acetate on and covered the back with double thick foam adhesive. You want to make sure that the foam adhesive is touching on all four sides around that fancy scalloped square in the middle. That way you can create a sort of shaker well to hold your bits. I am placing my shaker bits onto my plaid background. That way I can adhere my front of my shaker panel right over the top and make sure I get the right gradient of color that I'm looking for. I'm kind of creating my own mix here. I have some flower clay pieces, some yellow sequins, and then some clear glass seed beads, all from my stash, and I'm just kind of mixing them together, and then I will position that die cut pattern paper frame over the top and push that down. Now, some of my clay flowers kind of were sitting up, and so I'm going to knock those down so they're flat, and then I'll have a fun shaker card. I love having that window cut in the center of my pattern paper and having all those different sizes and types of shaker pieces shaking around inside of my card. Alrighty, this card is just about finished. I trimmed off any excess that was hanging over the edge of my shaker panel, and now I'm just going to adhere those sentiments from the Get Well sentiment stack using some foam strips near the bottom of my shaker window, and I'll pop my little critters right on top, and that's it. I love this cute little summery card, and I hope that you do too. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you again soon. Bye.